Hi, Pat. It's,
Hello, Natalie.
it's
Wow.
so nice
This
to
is
see
great to
you.
finally do this on the official podcast. So I'm glad to be here today as your guest. We've got some history together we can get into, but my name is Dr. Pat Williams. I've been in the coaching industry for 4 decades. And before that, I was a psychologist, which kind of led the way to coaching because I got my master's in humanistic and my doctorate in transpersonal. So human
Mhm.
growth and potential and all the woogity boogity stuff my daughter says, studies in consciousness. And,
Yeah.
I went to Esalen back when I was 19 and
Oh, yeah. Oh my
Carl
God.
Rogers was in my master class teacher and
What?
Joseph Campbell came and talked at my master's program. So that's how old I am.
That's wisdom.
So I've written or co-written several books in coaching because I always thought I wanted to write one, but then one led to others. And they're all co-written because they wouldn't have gotten co-written if I didn't have a co-author. We pushed
Yeah.
each other to chapters and this and that. And so I'm at this point, I still mentor and teach. I've got coaching clients with the federal government here, FAA and Department of Defense and that stuff. I had a coaching school from 1998 to 2012, the Institute for Life Coach Training. It was the 12th one in the world.
I
ICF.
think we met right after
We
you.
did, we did,
Remember
and
that?
we met. Yeah, I'll share that. So I sold that school in 2012 to my dean of students. I was tired of administration,
Mm.
and then I started pursuing, or had started in 2006 on coaching the global village.
Yes, I took that program.
This
Yeah.
is where we met. So it was a nonprofit to create the coaching approach availability to developing countries, underserved populations, US and abroad, Africa from whatever. And it did well for a few years and we lost funding. And I just said, I'm not a fundraiser. So some of the ideas I shared on. But I remember being in Montreal, I guess it was, for a training. We were teaching a coach approach for people working in First Nation and other nonprofits throughout what you're doing. And it was like a 4-day training. You created a workbook. I've still got it here somewhere, but it was great, great experience. That's when I met you and Andrew at the time. Um, and we've gone on from there. I've just watched you from social media and what you're up to. Wow, have you built a school? I mean, congratulations.
We've been busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, where do we start? First of all, I don't know if you mentioned you're in Colorado. Did you?
Yes, I've lived in Colorado 50 years of my life. I got stuck in Florida for a few years. It was
Hmm.
supposed to be
Hmm.
part-time, but the
Hmm.
real estate economy tanked, and so we had to sell Colorado and stay there. Um, and then my wife at the time, we moved back to Colorado, and she passed away 3 weeks after we moved into a new home.
I know, I
So
remember that.
it
Yeah.
was, I think she kind of knew. I think she kind of knew. Um, but I'm glad to be back here. It's where my heart sings. That's the winter
Hmm.
scene behind my house. Yesterday it was sunny, but
Yeah.
that's the Cashlaputa River, very historic river here.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, Pat, with all of your wisdom,
Mm,
what does coaching mean to you?
wow. Let me answer that from two perspectives. What coaching means to me generally is it really popped up globally to be the kind of conversation that doesn't require the client needing to be fixed. It's not psychotherapy. It's not nothing against psychotherapy, but a lot of people went to a therapist because there wasn't any place else to go. There,
Mm.
there weren't coaches. There was Uncle Charlie and the minister, priest, or whatever. But coaching kind of developed out of the corporate rooms and then spread to anybody can benefit from a coach to live beyond mediocrity, is the way I put it, to be more than just settling.
Mm.
And I think that's what coaching has become. Now, coaching can be affordable to different populations, or it can be very expensive to high level, corporate entities, et cetera. But it's still a conversation that helps the client think what they've not thought and say what they've not said out loud with a committed listener. That's my definition of coaching.
Oh, I like that. Say that again.
You get to say what you've not said, think what you've not thought out loud with a committed listener.
That's fine. Okay. I like
Because I tell my students that I mentor, I go, I could turn around right now and ask any of you to coach me, and I'd come up with something and I'd share something. And I would get new insights because I hear myself differently when somebody's listening.
yeah.
When somebody's really listening, not a
Yeah.
not a Starbucks conversation or whatever. Now, the big picture is I think coaching has led the way to be, for me, a conversational strategy for life transitions, creating opportunities for whether it's work, your new stage of life, or whatever. I'll get into what I'm focusing on right now. But I just think having a coach is different than having a person you live with or work with because they can't be 100% objective. I mean, it's good that my current wife now and I are both good listeners and both coaches. I didn't have that before. Not everybody can have that. So where do you get that? Who are your committed listeners, professionally or paraprofessionally?
Mm. Wow, you raise really good points. And what I'm curious about, because you did mention like, who can afford coaching, and I'm curious, what do you think when people say coaching is a luxury
Oh,
service?
um, it can be looked upon that way, even for somebody who makes a good salary. And I used to say when I marketed myself in the early days, I hate that term, when I made myself visible for somebody who could see the potential of coaching, I'll put it that way.
Mhm.
It's like, what would it be like for you to have 2 or 3 conversations a month with somebody who can help you see through the weeds and make better decisions? And I can't promise your company would make more money or that you would make more money, but would happiness be? I mean, sometimes it's not a monetary value. Is it luxury? For people who find a coach that charges several $100, if not $1,000 a month, yeah, that's luxurious. But there are coaches that are available that charge no more than a therapist or a lawyer or somebody like that to help you hear yourself differently so that you can make choices to not settle, as I said earlier, to just we're not meant to live a mediocre life. We can, but I think
Yeah.
coaching is a partnership that helps develop your better self.
Mm. And what's that worth to someone, right? Like
Oh,
when I
yeah,
tell,
yeah. That's a good rhetorical question, but it depends on it depends on their value. Are they like I coach a lot of financial advisors. Some of them make millions a year,
Mhm,
and they're
mhm,
they're paying for this, okay. But there are other people that maybe are just teachers, or I don't mean just teachers, but teachers or
making different salaries.
yeah, making different salaries. Coaching can still be made available, whether
Mhm,
it's a group, whether it's somebody who says, like I used to give two pro bono clients a month. When I was fully busy, I said,
hmm,
okay, I got 2 scholarships a month, and I didn't advertise that. But if I'd ever interview somebody and say, I really think I'd like to work with you and I think you could benefit, and I hear you saying it's too much, how about if we work for half price for 6 months? And that
yeah.
sometimes helped.
Speaking of building your business, one of the questions that I get daily is, and often is, how do you build it? How do you become an independent coach who's making a good salary with a good client base? You are probably the best person I can ask because of all of your experience in being a solopreneur. What do you say?
It's funny, I just visited, I did a road trip to Iowa this summer and we went to Dyersville and went to the um, Field of Dreams. So
Mm,
I have my hat. If you build it, they will come.
yes.
Well, that's not true in coaching. Uh, uh, um,
Well, I say that about our school, actually. I say that about
yeah,
what we've built here.
yeah. So I'm no marketer, but here's the deal with coaching. You're not selling widgets, nothing visible. Um, you're selling, if you want to use that term, a relationship with somebody to help them get below the surface and look at what they really want and what's in the way. I can't promise. I'm not a motivational business builder, whatever, but you got to get in front of people. So here's marketing. Quit being a secret. And
Mm,
who knows you that doesn't know what you're doing?
mm.
You may know somebody from college or from a previous workplace and they know you, but they don't know that you've shifted to coaching. You need to let them know that. And you don't use language like, I'm learning to be a coach. I'm just getting started. No. You say, I've trained in this internationally approved program. I'm opening a coaching business, and here's the kind of people I'd love to work with. You may know somebody. So that person is what I call a rainmaker, somebody who knows you. You're not selling to them, you're asking them to think of people that might benefit from working with you. And sometimes that person will say, well, can I hire you too? Well, sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not that easy. I used to say it would take 18 months to 3 years to build a coaching business. Some people can do it quicker depending upon their connections. I worked with a woman yesterday. She had 30 years in corporations and she's retiring, but now she's consulting slash coaching with HR leaders in various companies. Well, that's a
Mm,
great group. They're in non-competing businesses. She's doing group coaching, but
mm,
she already had names to contact
mhm.
and people who could afford it. Um, Other people, if you think I'm a good coach, I really want to do this. Okay, who needs to know what you do? How do you get in front? Do you do brown bag lunches at a company? Do you do a little 20-minute talk at blank club and give away a month of free coaching? I mean, there's lots of ways you can do that with confidence. You have to have confidence and competence. Those are the two ingredients for success in coaching.
Confidence and competence. And I
Yeah.
also love that quit being a secret.
Yeah. Quit
That's a
being a
great
secret.
quote.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And so when you were building your practice, like what did you do to stay positive, stay focused, keep going?
Well, okay, so here's my early days. So I was a full-time psychologist and started doing executive coaching in 1990, part-time, as part of my practice, Hewlett Packard, Kodak, IBM. And then in 95, I said, oh man, this coaching industry is really going to take off. I could see that, right?
Mm,
So I had an article in the local newspaper, small newspaper in Loveland, Colorado, but all of a sudden people were saying, oh, well, I want to talk to you about this because they couldn't see me as a shrink. I was too well known. Like in a small
mm,
town, they're not going to come see me, right? Um, so I was lucky in that regard. I'd been mayor, I'd been head of the Chamber of Commerce over 20 years. So I was known in that regard. But then 3 years later, I moved to Florida for the first time, and it was like, oh crap. Nobody knows me. I don't know. I don't know this town. I'd go out and play golf with people. And I said, I'm a coach. Really? What sport? I had to go through that.
Yeah.
Had to go through that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I was kind of down on myself, and I talked to a good friend who referred me to a group in Orlando who coached attorneys. So
Mm.
somebody I knew referred me to somebody I knew. So that's how it happened. Don't be a secret. Just keep asking around. Um, they used to say in the coaching industry, you need to have a niche. Mm, yeah, but a niche might find you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
find
Mm-hmm.
out who you want to coach and find out who you don't want to coach. So as a psychologist, I specialized a lot in adult ADD and in marriage counseling. And I thought, oh, I'll do relationship coaching. Oh God, no, no,
No.
no,
So
it's
what's
not
the
what I,
difference? A lot of people, that's the other question I get all the time is what's the difference between coaching and therapy?
well, a lot of the same skill sets are there, but the context of the relationship is what's different.
Mm-hmm.
The person who comes to coaching doesn't see themselves as needing coaching or needing to be fixed. They
Mm.
they might be saying, I need to figure out where I'm stuck, or I need to figure out how to be a better coworker, or I just got promoted in this department. I want coaching on overcoming what today is called imposter syndrome. I hate that term.
What
I
would you call it?
imposter mindset, maybe.
Yeah, syndrome is weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
syndrome makes it sound
Yeah.
therapeutic. And I tell people, look, if you're in a new position that you don't really know, why would you know it? You know, you're learning, you're exploring. So don't be afraid to ask questions and learn what you learn while you're learning it. That's coaching, really. Um, a lot of people need, including coaches trying to build their business, they think you already need to know about your client. You don't.
Mm.
You don't. You need to know how to create the relationship and be comfortable with asking questions that you don't know the answer to. It's funny. My first book, which was Therapist as Life Coach, Transforming Your Practice, I sent that to my brother, who's an attorney, and I Harvard law grad and big attorney. And I said, so here's my book. What do you think? He goes, it's very interesting, but this chapter on powerful questions, which is what they were called then, he goes, this is interesting. So you get paid for asking questions that you don't know the answer to. And he said,
That sounds pretty accurate.
yeah, and he said, we lawyers only get paid for asking questions you already know the answer to.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
Yes.
in deposition and in court, we don't want to be surprised. Um, and I said, yeah, that's
Hmm.
true. And so what's the biggest coaching skill that's kind of hidden in the competencies? Curiosity.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
the biggest skill that
Yeah.
spells coaching.
Yeah. Curiosity for sure. And so that was your first book. What was the next book?
Becoming a professional life coach, lessons from the Institute for Life Coach Training, which was my
Oh,
school.
yeah. Right. Okay.
And Norton Publishing, this is another way where I got lucky. Norton Publishing wrote me and said, well, they published my first book, Therapist
Okay.
Coach. And they said, we looked at your website and we think you've got another book. And I go, oh, I don't know how to write a proposal. Well, your proposal is on the website. Just send us that. So, so that's what that became. And now it's in its third edition. It's 2005, 2015, and now 2024 was the third
That's-
edition.
Okay.
And I keep adding stuff to it. There's a lot in the newest edition on emotions and coaching, psychoneurology, um, just useful things. But it's it's been a good seller. It's been translated into, I don't know, Korean and someplace else, um, which I'm proud of. But
That is amazing. Yeah. Wow. And so if you think about the lessons, what are some of the ones that stand out?
well, it was based kind of on a curriculum, and I divided it into two sections, coaching and coaching from the inside out. So that gets to the who of the person and the psychology stuff without going into deep, dark Jungian, you didn't have to go there, right? But it was about listening, but not active listening. I've always pushed back against that. I wish they'd call it focus listening.
Mm,
That's what I would call it. And then presence, all the things that became part of the competencies later on. But coaching from the inside out is getting to purpose and block negative thinking, all that stuff. It gets into that. And in the third edition, it gets into the emotions, psycho-emotional things, because in the old days, the old days, when coaching first started, it was like, if your client looked like they were going to cry, oh boy, you might need to consider referring them to a therapist. Oh, for
yes.
Pete's sakes, really.
Yeah.
Um, so the research today in the lab shows that emotions really are emotion, energy in motion. The
Mm,
brain changes if an fMRI is hooked up and somebody expresses an emotion, they move on.
hmm
So in coaching, how it's different from psychotherapy is we weren't trying to facilitate the release of emotions or going for depth of understanding. It was more like nowadays, as I teach my mentors, oh, I notice your energy just shifted. What's going on inside? I don't label it. That
Yeah.
is so important. And that's how I've changed over 30 years of coaching. You don't say, oh gosh, you must be sad. I see the tears. You don't know
Yeah.
that they're sad. You don't know
Yeah.
that. So you just say, I notice your energy has shifted. Now, we didn't use Zoom back in my early days of coaching. I coached 20 years by telephone,
Oh, yeah.
and telephonic classes, but you could
What?
still pick up on energy shifts.
It's so great to hear the continuum of change over time.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't use a telegraph though. I will say. No,
Okay, that's good. That's
but Zoom, I like Zoom for classes. I actually give my clients a lot of choice. Would you like to be on camera or would you like to just be heard?
yeah, a
Because
lot of
there can
kids
be a
do
lot
that.
of distractions. I can
Yeah.
look at what's that sculpture on your desk? It looks like a Buddha. Yeah, that's a Buddha, and I can get a little distracted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. And now you're coaching on this platform, or how much in person are you doing?
Oh, not much in person anymore, other than workshops that I'm planning this next year. I've done one on eldering, making the concept of elder revered again, not mean old fart, mean elder like in the old indigenous First
Yeah,
Nation concept, right?
the wise one.
Um, so I call it the rise of the new elder, a 21st century guide to wisdom, leadership, and living legacy.
Wow.
Um, So I'm doing that at a ranch coming up in May with horses and all that stuff. We'll do another one in September.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's the only stuff I'm doing live. I mean, I'm asked to do a lot of keynotes or webinars. Time frame is always on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll invite you
I-
into our community to a keynote.
yeah, well, I don't want to travel so much anymore. I mean, I was fortunate when my books were out and I was doing book tours and speaking for coaching conferences. Man, I went all over Turkey and China and all over Europe and Italy and Switzerland. I loved it, but I don't want to go to an airport much anymore unless it's a quick trip. I just don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So what drives your continuous passion for learning and evolving? Like I'm
uh,
hearing so much evolution in your career and in your self-development and growth.
I guess it's making a difference, what, and when I use the word living legacy, right? I really don't care what people might say at my last day. I mean, I hope they say nice things, but what's my living legacy? What do
Mm,
I have right now that done stuff? For instance, as a wise elder, the term I'm using, what are we doing for those younger than us? So I'm involved with Boys and Girls Club here locally, and I do after school mentoring with kids. I show up and be grandpa, really. But you know, it's um it's that kind of stuff. The Harvard study, which I know you're familiar with, it started in probably 1920.
mm,
what's the one thing that adds to longevity? And it's community connection. It's community connection. It's not how much money you're worth. It's not blah, blah, blah. It's, are you connected? So the idea of retiring and playing golf 5 days a week doesn't float my boat.
No.
I don't mind if somebody wants to play golf, but what are you doing purposefully? What are you doing in your community? Um, and it can be a local community with Zoom, or it can be international communities. I know people that go to, our Rotary Club goes to Mexico every year and works with water projects and stuff, which I used to do back in the day. But
Mm.
I don't feel like digging ditches now.
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me of something. You met my parents in Mexico.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
That is
In
so
Ajijic. Yeah, in Ajijic,
yes.
like Chapala. Yeah,
Yes.
I was actually thinking of moving there. That's a great
Okay.
place.
Yeah, they
7,000.
were living there in a gated.
Yeah, I went and had breakfast with them.
Yes. That's
You
so
told me they lived there, and I went, oh, I can't believe it. We're going to visit.
But that shows your affinity for like connection,
Yes,
right?
yes,
The roles you've played. You said mayor, I think. You said, Chamber of
yeah,
Commerce. You're
yeah.
you're your best rep, right? And I think that's what you need to be as a coach if you want to build a business. Like,
Yeah, and I think for me, when they used to use the term 6 degrees of separation, it's more like 3 for me. I mean, if I speak up with somebody and I'm in the line at a thing at Disney World, all of a sudden they know me. I mean, it's like, wow.
well, yeah, I can see that. I could totally see that.
So when I was thinking of moving to Lake Chapala or Ajijic, and you said, "Oh, my parents live there," I went, "Oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah, yeah.
that
I
was
just
fun."
remember. Was that no? They would have met your late wife, I guess, not your
Yes,
current. Okay.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. Time, eh? There's a lot of, I don't know, so much
Well,
reflection.
my purpose statement is I'm a curious explorer, and there's much more to that, but that fits me.
Mm,
Previous
mhm.
life, I was one person who did a regressive hypnosis or something with me. She said, "Oh, you were in the Lewis and Clark expedition, but all you did was row the boat. You were nobody famous." I thought that was cool. I mean, that's cool. Um,
I have a good question for you.
okay.
Um, you know that we're founded, and I like to say, born in Canada, made for the world.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Love it.
And we've expanded to the US, and we have a lot of our US brand is really growing. I'm curious from your perspective, is there a cultural difference, do you think, in coaching between Canada and US? You've traveled the world, you've seen, you know,
No, no,
yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of coach friends in Canada and did some stuff up there with the Adler School in the day,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
I'm working with a college in God, what's the name of that town? They're actually teaching a undergraduate certificate in coaching, and they're using my book.
Oh,
I can't remember the name, but it starts with a K. K.
is it British Columbia though? Kelowna?
No. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's it.
Kelowna.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's BC. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know. I think Canada, as opposed to parts of Europe. I mean, Europe created the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. They get a little
Yeah.
bit different because there's different rules of professional credibility. And then when you go to Asia, like Korea and Singapore, China, that there's some cultural hurdles to overcome. But Canada and the US, no, no, great.
And so what do you think, speaking of professionalism in coaching, you mentioned EMCC, where do you feel coaching needs to land in terms of regulation or professionalism?
Oh boy, back back, way back, there were states like Washington, state of Washington, state of Colorado, that were trying. I can't remember when this was, probably early 2000. The therapy organizations were trying to sue and require coaches to be licensed therapists, or at least sign up as unlicensed therapists, which is a weird term.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, And the ICF came in, and our local coaching group in Denver came in, and we got a step in the state law that said if somebody advertises as a coach and they follow these ethical guidelines and they're a member of the International Coach Federation, they're not performing therapy.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that helped.
I didn't know that.
And then of course my school was built on therapists who wanted to learn coaching. Um,
We have a lot of mental health professionals coming because of the restrictions they have for working within their province or state. So they come to get certified so that they can expand their reach.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only geographically does it help with marketing, but it expands your possibility into people who don't really want a therapist. They're
Yeah.
not broken.
Yeah.
Um,
Organizational psychologists became executive coaches
right,
because, and people were, it's just a term that was more
right.
accepted or
Yeah.
invited. Yeah.
And to a certain degree. I mean, I'm also a vice president of the International Society of Coaching Psychology out of England. But see, coaching psychology doesn't exist in America. They have Division 14 of the American Psychological Association, which is consulting psychology. And that's where they throw everything that's not clinical.
Okay.
But it's melding. I mean, I remember I predicted in my first book that eventually coaching would overtake psychotherapy as an available resource. And I didn't mean that as a slam. I just meant, look at all the people who don't go to a therapist because of the stigma or because of the health insurance in America. I mean, you had to get the
Mm,
diagnosis, you know.
mm,
Um, but I think coaching is more of you buy it because you see the benefit of it.
hmm. Do you think it deserves the status of therapy?
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, it's if you're a PCC, MCC coach, that should be help be understood that that's similar to being a master's or doctoral level psychologist. Now, now there were a lot of psychologists that got their doctorate and they weren't very good therapists. So there's that.
Yes. Yes, I will agree.
Yeah. So
And same for coaching.
now the certificate doesn't make you good.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, I mean, I got my MCC in the early days, and oh my God, have I learned so much since then. So coaching is a field of continual learning. You
Oh
need
yeah.
to be in groups, you need to be in classes, you need to have experiences that make you um, better, more conscious. Um, I mean, I was getting a little stuck because I wasn't coaching the same kind of person anymore, and my skills got
Mm-hmm.
rusty because I was mostly teaching, mostly
Mm-hmm.
mentoring, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I took on coaching, and my wife is an MCC advisor. So,
Oh yeah. Okay.
so I said, "What would you think of this session?" She goes, "That was a lot of consulting."
Oh, no.
Whoops.
Back
Those were
back to
some
your, you need to go
those
back to
were some
your
leading questions and
oh
advising.
no.
And
Oh, that's so funny. That's so good. She's a supervisor, trained supervisor?
yeah, she's kind of like the MCC of MCC. She's now has classes on teaching those who want to mentor MCCs. So she's a mentor to mentors.
Oh, interesting. I would love
Yeah.
to take that class because we have an MCC program coming out this year. And yeah, I really kind of now that I'm graduating from Harvard in May, so now I can open up my horizons and I think I'm gonna get, my supervision in
Is
there
that
as
psychology or social work? What'd you end up with?
master's in psychology,
Okay.
behavioral psychology. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you have to go to Harvard or do it all virtual?
3 courses on site, the rest was distance.
Wow.
But it's
Yeah.
been amazing, really cool. 5 years of time. So I've been, have been limited to other training, but I'm
Yeah.
excited to do other things now.
Yeah, well, let me connect you and
Yeah.
Fran and just say, your school or you're entering in mentoring MCCs or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all she does. That's all she does.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I love what you were saying about staying connected to groups and skills. And we are now my next big sort of vision for Coach Academy is the community piece. It's that bringing coaches in to stay connected. We have a community that is thriving with the people who take our programs. We have skills labs and clinics and live demos, and we have MCC level, ICF level mentoring for once a month that people can do an hour a month.
Yeah.
For membership, you pay like $55 a month and you get access to all these great ways to stay connected to your skills. And that's really what we want to invite people in to do. I think it's so important as a coach.
Yeah. That's a brilliant idea, because you always need to have what Stephen Covey calls keep your saw sharpened,
Yeah.
Now I teach a class on metaphors. I don't know if keeping your saw sharpened is a good metaphor, but it's like when somebody says, "What are the bullet points?" No, let's change the word from bullet. What are the important points,
Mm,
So, instead of keeping our saw sharpened, I think we just keep our skills fresh.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. In community though, because I think you learn
in
so
community.
much in the dialogue, like that dyadic relationship you were talking about.
Yeah,
It's what we do. We learn from, I've learned so much from our students. Like they
yeah,
keep me on my toes, they keep me
right.
fresh, they keep me going back for more, right?
Well,
More
the other thing
skills.
about that is when you get to be cognizant as a coach that you can't coach everybody, or you might know who to refer that person to, which is being of service.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate the interview. I think coaching could benefit you, but I don't think I'm the right coach for you. Let me give you a couple of names.
Yeah.
Well, that's community. That's
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and
Yeah, the referral piece, I find our global community is so good at uplifting each other. Peer coaching in our community is like unlimited. So people are like meeting cross programs and cross
wow,
country and cross, like it's really cool.
wow.
It's really cool.
Well, look what you created. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
I look back and I think it kind of you don't know when you love what you do, you don't really know what's happening. Like you don't
right,
see the magnitude until you step back and you go, "Whoa, what just
right.
happened?"
Yeah. Yeah, I have people that hear about, like, I'll send something out for this like ranch thing I'm doing with horses and say, "Oh, I took your training 25 years ago. You probably don't remember me, but oh my, wow. That'll happen to you if it hasn't already."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we're in our ninth year,
Wow.
so we'll be 9 years old in October
Wow.
as Coach Academy. And it's just, yeah, it's been so great. It's a blessing to be working with people who have such good intentions for others. Coaches have great intentions for others, and professional people. Like we've really established a brand that is attracting professionals from all over every industry, every role out there. And so yeah, it's a really great place to sit. Very blessed.
Good for you.
Yeah. So you have your most recent book, is that the third edition that you were talking about?
That's the most recent. Then I also wrote one a few years ago that I'm redoing with a wellness coach. Now you can't see it here in this, I think. You're getting naked.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Getting Naked. Okay,
On
I think
emo-
I saw that on LinkedIn. Yeah.
yeah, on being emotionally transparent at the right time, the right place, and with the right person. Now there's an online course that I developed called Emotional Literacy Academy, because
Oh.
when I went to the website and called it gettingnaked.com, people went to some weird sites. So um, we we changed it to emotional literacy.
Well, there's a learning curve.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's an online course that people can get ICF credit for. Um, and the book is still out there on Amazon. In fact, if they go to my website, drpatwilliams.com,
Yeah.
Dr. Pat Williams, there's like 3 buttons. Work with me. Here's the elders retreat at the ranch, and here's the online course, and in the upper right, books by Pat. So that's it. It's simple.
We'll put your information in the notes
Yeah,
on the
good,
this podcast post.
good.
They'll be able to reach out to you on your website.
Yep.
Also LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn. Are you on Instagram?
I try not to be.
I know. It's a tough one.
My
I
brother's always posting on there. I go, oh God, I don't
Oh
want to.
yeah,
I'm trying to. I got on what's the new one?
Twitter?
Blue,
No.
Blue
To
Wave or Blue something. I mean, I don't want to get on X. I don't want to support Elon Musk. I don't know. Um, but I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and
okay, Facebook, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to, if you ever want somebody to just do a master class or a guest lecture, I'd be happy to work something up with you there. So
Absolutely. I think that'd be great. What I love is the the wisdom that you have from experience. You can't buy that, right? You have to
yeah,
be like I always tell coaches, you can learn and read as much as you want about coaching, but until you practice, you don't know. You won't
right,
learn,
right.
right? Yeah.
It's changed a lot. I mean, coaching, and now that we have AI and we've got things like Better Up, it's like, oh man,
Oh
there's
yeah, were you ever part of Better Up?
I went through it to try to be a spy and see what it was
Oh
like.
yeah.
And it gave me a big headache trying to get through the curriculum. It was so weird online. And then they advertised that Prince what's his name is part of it. It's so bogus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're offering something for corporate people in the middle who want quick 30, 45-minute things. But it's all transactional coaching.
Yeah.
You,
Well, they just bought Dare to Lead, Brene Brown's work.
oh God.
They bought the rights. Yeah. Mm.
Oh, Brene Brown. Boy, did she open up a plethora of opportunities. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not against it. I know that well, even with counseling now, there's better help. People can get counseling online. And I used to think that's a
Yeah.
no-no. It's like
Mm.
you can't do psychotherapy online. Well, it turns out 90% of people who saw a psychotherapist weren't really in severe need of anything. They didn't have pathological thing. They just needed somebody to talk to and overcome their stuckness, which we'd say
Yes.
today.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I mean, my daughter uses the therapist in where she lives, and she's in a CBT group twice a week, and I go, great, great, wonderful.
But I like what you said before about, coaches open up the choice for people seeking support that may not be pathological. Like it may
Right,
not be.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, well, I think when somebody gets the awareness that coaching is a partnership, it's not a doctor patient. You're coming in with me as talking about your life. I don't know your life. I don't know your business. I don't know, you know, whatever. I know coaching, and I
Mm.
will help you leave with things you haven't thought or haven't said out loud
Mhm.
and get new ideas. I think in a nutshell, coaching is about helping people think differently. Bingo. I mean, don't go over your story of the last 20 years. I don't need to hear that, but
Yeah.
short circuit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm noticing the time. Normally we're about 40, 45 minutes in. What would you say is something that you think,
Excuse
somebody who's looking for coach training, somebody who wants to become a coach, what is the most important thing? I mean, I used to say people have, do you have coaching DNA?
Yeah.
But what do
Yeah.
you think is the most important quality of a coach?
Oh my God. Well, if you're talking about how to choose or to train as a coach, I mean, when I said my school was the 12th in the world, now there's probably 1,200, if not more. But so that's true for colleges too. So how did you decide to go to Harvard? How did I decide to go? You know, you narrowed down what you think you're looking for, talk to some people who have been there and say, okay, do I want to become an executive corporate coach? Am I want to be a wellness coach? So that starts narrowing down specialty. And if you find that the Canadian Coaching Academy is more general, but you can still learn to apply your skills anywhere, that's what I would choose.
Hmm.
Uh, you're not going to, what's an analogy? You're not going to a space engineering school to learn how to build satellites, that's pretty defined. But you're going somewhere to use your skills and your personality, your who you are, to be in a relationship with people who want to be more of who they can be. The language sometimes gets lost in the clouds, right? What is
Yeah.
coaching? Well, it's helping you look at what is in your way of getting clear about what you want. Uh, there's so much. I mean, when you meet people live, you can't talk about coaching. You eventually have to say, well, Natalie, how about if you and I schedule a 30-minute free call and you can experience coaching?
Mm.
That's when you can
That's
close.
hard. Yeah.
That's when you can close the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. When people ask me about coaching, training schools anyway, and they do because they think I know, which I I like to think I know. But I always say, go to a place because I don't think that every student is a fit for our school. I think
No,
that
no,
things that people need and are searching for, and we don't have to answer everyone's need. But I
right.
do say, go to a place where you feel seen and heard. Yeah,
Beautiful.
that's it. Where you feel like you connect, you fit there.
Yeah.
And but when I asked you about coaching, what do you think is the most important quality that a coach because a lot of people are saying, I don't know if I should become a coach. I've thought about it for a long time. People tell me I should be a coach. Should I become a coach? That's the question. It's the
Yeah.
should question, right? Mhm.
Well, I think the important quality goes back to the word I said, curiosity kind of leads the
Yeah.
pack. Now you might have an affinity, say, what do I really want to be a coach for? Well, I want to help people and fill in the blank. Okay. How do you do that and not be an advisor or a consultant? How do you let go of needing to fix? Can you learn to listen and question and not have to be right and not even have to know what's right
Right.
and
Right.
realize you're getting paid for it?
Yeah.
And why is that valuable? Well, if they experience being coached in your classes or somewhere, they'll get the difference. They'll get the value of, wow, this is different. This
Hmm.
than other conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I often ask my team, how do we bottle this? How do we like bottle it and put it on a shelf? And they
Yeah.
said, and that's how this podcast was born. They're like, you need to talk about it, Natalie. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that's right. We'll just do a podcast and we'll talk about what coaching is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different from everybody, but as Pam Richard said in London, in whatever year that was, the ICF was there. She was up on the stage, President ICF, and she goes, coaching is coaching is coaching. Now, there may be all these schools on the map that lit up, Turkey and China and England and France, but everybody teaches it differently within the competencies of the ICF.
Hmm.
You might be EMCC instead, but within the competencies, like you went to Harvard and got a degree, but it could have been an equally valuable degree from such and such college somewhere else. But the environment and the educational, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, the experience, what you said earlier, community,
Yes,
that's what I bought into.
yes,
That's what I wanted. I wanted to be with people who value education the way that I do,
yep,
and where the curriculum is strong, that it's a leading, cutting edge type of environment. And
right,
that's what I wanted. I wanted the resources that came with that and the network.
yep, that's it.
Mm.
That's a big thing. A lot of coaching schools before COVID were live experiences like Newfield Network. You'd go to Boulder for a weekend, then you go to San Francisco, which got pretty expensive. Uh,
Mm.
Fortunately, my school was still virtual already, so it didn't hurt. It was just telephonic
Good.
classes.
Mm-hmm.
I think people need to get together occasionally. Now, I don't go to every ICF conference anymore. That's not necessary. But what about a local ICF chapter in Canada? I mean, I know there are big
Yeah,
ones.
there are in every
Yeah.
major city. Yeah.
The Denver coaches group is fabulous. I mean, we have gatherings virtually, gatherings live, subgroups, coffee groups, it's all that kind of stuff. Um, so I think that helps. That's part of the community of coaches not feeling alone in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's a great idea is to belong to an ICF chapter.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any aspirations to work with ICF or be a part of the team?
Well, I was on their board of directors
Oh, you
early,
were.
way
Okay.
back
Wondered.
when, and I was head of the regulation way before they had any. The regulation committee. Uh,
Okay.
but that was when I wrote my book on the law and ethics of coaching. It wasn't a bestseller, but at least it got out there. So yeah, and I was president of ACTO too, Association for Coach Training Organizations.
Oh, were you?
Yeah,
I
back
see their whatever you call it, acronym around. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think they're separate anymore because the ICF kind of took away a lot of the education and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the ICF is doing a mostly good job of not becoming overly bureaucratic, but
They've
there are,
really decentralized actually, like
yeah, there's a
the
few
levels.
things
Yeah.
they just keep getting bigger and bigger and changing the exam, and I go, oh, yeah, God, that's just me.
Our coaches have so much anxiety around the exam, so we do everything we can to prepare them. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
There's a
tough
friend of
one though. It
mine,
is a tough one.
if you don't know about Lissa DeHart in Washington,
Yeah,
she does a great
yeah,
little class on preparing for the
yeah.
exam.
I actually refer a lot of our coaches to her. Yeah,
She gives a great value with
yeah,
monthly Q&A, free coaching sessions. I mean, she's amazing. I love her.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this has been so nice catching up and just being with you in this
Well,
space for
thanks.
an hour. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope people will like our conversation. There's a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh my gosh. I really feel like there's a lot of value there for a lot of our coaches
Well,
anyway.
listen, I will introduce you to Fran, who mentors MCC
Yes,
and that kind
please
of stuff.
do.
Fran
Yeah.
Fisher. And if there's ever a role I can play in some retreat you're having or online thing, let me know. I'm happy to do that.
Right. I will for sure. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate this conversation.
Okay. Thanks, Natalie.